doing. I mean, if the president doesn't like to glad hand and he doesn't like to hang out with members of Congress, that's a little piece of heaven for Joe Biden. He loves that. So I think what they've established is a relationship which is, okay, I know we have to do this, says the president. Joe, go to Capitol Hill. You're the guy who cuts
President Obama has said that he wants to be having dinner with his family every night. Is that the reason?
It's one of the reasons. He is a father of 2 young girls in the White House. They moved from Chicago, especially in the first term. They gave up their friends. They gave up their routine. And so God bless him for that, that's important to him. But the other complaint's just who he is. As David notes, he likes other things. He likes to sit down and watch Sports Center after the family goes to bed. He likes to do his own thing. He does like to golf. He took the speaker golfing, I think, once. Maybe we'll see more of that in the second term. But this is, Republicans complain about this, but we should be clear. This is a bipartisan complaint. The president is not just stiffing the Republicans. Democrats complain, not only does he not spend a lot of time with them in those kind of settings, but when they call the White House saying, can I send in a special group of my constituents, the White House says, no, we don't want to do special favors. So
I was interested to read just in Jody Cantor's piece in the New York Times that he hasn't even had Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton for dinner.
Well, let's be clear. I want to push back a little bit on this. It's not like if he were hanging out with those guys all the time, the Tea Party would all of a sudden fall in love with him and start moving his legislation through. It's not that at all. I think we put too much on this idea of a personal relationship. Look, he puts forward. They're not going to love him. The Tea
There's
Party
a lot of them. There's a lot of them who don't want to. There's a lot of them who don't want to be seen hanging out with
him at all. The former governor of Florida gave the president a hug, and he got primary.
But don't you think it's part of his job? I actually think it's his job to deal with people on both sides of the aisle, even ones he doesn't like. Now, every president has a different way of dealing with people, but to have members of your own party suggest to you, as I was told by a senior senator, said to the president, you need to have some people over so we can talk about this issue informally. And the president said, no, I'm not going to do that. I would argue that's his job.
What Gloria's speaking to is building trust with Congress. The sausage making is ugly. Joe Biden did a great job of it. But let's remember, the first term, you think about how you're going to get reelected. The second term, what's your legacy piece going to be? He's not going to have a major legacy piece unless he has GOP support, and here he comes.
Craig Robertson, Michelle Obama's brother, arriving there at the Capitol. Let's go back to Wolf.
Anderson, thanks very much. Kate and I are joined by a special guest, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, who is with us on this very special day. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., we're remembering him. You were with him. You remember his I Have a Dream speech, Reverend Jackson. If he were here today, what would he say that an African-American president is now being sworn in, not the first time, but the second time?
He would be championing him and challenging him at the same time. You must remember, Dr. King was blooded and stabbed and bricked and killed to make this day happen. His sacrifice tore down the walls. The bricks from that wall laid the bridge that President Barack now runs across. So Dr. King was a very hated and vilified man, and Barack is a very beloved and celebrated man. But Dr. King and President Barack Obama is a kind of interesting convergence of history today. He would celebrate his victory today, but keep raising critical issues like too many poor people, too much violence, and too much racial disparities.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you about. I mean, I think you would probably say that Dr. King's dream is not yet fully accomplished, is not yet fully been realized. So what would you challenge President Obama to do in his second term?
Well, remember, Dr. King, the dream speech was the climax. He said 100 years later, you promised equal opportunity, you promised equal protection. But the day he spoke, Texas to Florida to Maryland, we can use a single public toilet. I came here to hear the speech. I just left jail. Couldn't use a public library. Couldn't use a public restaurant. Black soldiers sat behind knots of pure dervishes at American military bases. Against that backdrop, he spoke and became hated because he challenged the culture. I think today he would be saying, now we must focus on the growing poverty. 50 Americans in poverty, 54 million of food insecure, 44 million on food stamps, 20 million unemployed yet today. Within these cities, a combination of drugs and guns in and jobs out. He would be talking about an urban policy, a policy for poor people, and the ending racial disparity. He would be supportive, but also very, very much challenging.
What's happening in Chicago right now? Last year, 516 people were killed by guns in Chicago, your city.
Well, you can't separate guns from drugs, from race, from poverty. And the areas where the killing took place is about 45% unemployment. That's way beyond the 7.8 we talk about every day. Second, there are no gun shops in Chicago. Guns are manufactured in Barrington, in the suburbs, in Rock Island. So guns in, and then from Mexico, the drug cartels, drugs in. Guns in, drugs in, plants closed, jobs leaving. That is a very, very toxic combination.
Do you want to see President Obama take more of a central role, come to Chicago, hold town halls? I mean, you have been talking about the crime and drug problem in Chicago for a very long time. I'm
glad that he used the occasion of the Sandy Hook crisis to deal with the guns issue, because that killing in Sandy Hook was in a way different. These 20 babies who never had the chance to open their Christmas presents, they never could see the Easter rabbit. I mean, something about that it was a tipping point, and yet it illuminates Chicago. 175 children killed under age 18, and so, but 32,000 killed nationally. So the killing epidemic is huge. I wish it would come to Chicago, because unlike a kind of antiseptic new.
Reverend Jackson, we see the Chief Justice of the United States, John Roberts, arriving here on Capitol Hill behind us right now. He will be administering the oath of office to the president for a fourth time. Yesterday was the third, twice 4 years ago, fourth and last time, we should point out. This will be a significant historic moment.
But look here, we are 160 miles from Jamestown, Virginia, where the slave ships landed. We're on the steps where the enslaved people built the steps of this Capitol. He looks over where Lincoln the Emancipator is more immortalized and where Dr. King's statue is. So we just surrounded with huge bits of history here today.
And look at that, Sonia Sotomayor, the justice, arriving as well.
Justice Breyer as well.
Yeah, she'll be administering the oath of office for the vice president of the United States.
That was on Wimbledon Supreme Court in 1963. Matter of fact, in the South, blacks couldn't vote. White women couldn't serve on juries. 18-year-olds couldn't vote. Students couldn't vote on campuses. You couldn't vote bilingually. So since 63 to today, in many ways, the whole world has changed.
We've come a long way. We still have a ways to go, as you will be the first to acknowledge. Reverend Jackson, thanks very much for coming up here, spending a few moments with us.
Thank you, sir.
Great to see you. Nice to see you, Reverend.
Former President George W. Bush and his father, the former President George H.W. Bush, aren't attending this inaugural. But former President Bill Clinton and Jimmy Carter are. We're waiting to see President Clinton stand by for that. Also, we're taking a closer look at the downside of winning another 4 years in the White House. It doesn't always go so well. The second-term curse, as some call it, that's coming up as well. First, though, an inaugural flashback.
Let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
We all remember the phrase, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. But even more important than the phrase was the whole attitude that FDR had. He projected optimism, he projected forward movement, and people felt that's the mystery of leadership, that somehow the depression they were suffering, they weren't going to be in it alone anymore, that they had a leader who was going to take care of it.
I'm a pancake purist.
Get into IHOP for all-you-can-eat pancakes.
I just like to dip a little bit in the coffee.
Eat them any way you want, stack after stack.
I'll cut them in fours, organize them, and start from the top and eat my way down.
All-you-can-eat pancakes at IHOP. Get here quick before they're gone.
Just one circle. When you have diabetes, your doctor will say, get smart about your weight. That's why there's Glucerna Hunger Smart Shakes. They have carbs steady, with carbs that digest slowly to help minimize blood sugar spikes.
Glucerna Hunger Smart, a smart way to help manage hunger and diabetes.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
The torch has been passed to a new generation of Americans.
The American dream need not forever be deferred.
This is the richest and the most powerful country.
It's so important to make someone happy. Make just one heart-to-heart you. You sing to one smile that cheers you, one face that lights when it needs you, and you will be happy too.
For me, traveling isn't about taking a vacation, sitting on a beach, or listening to some cheesy tour guide as we travel in packs from an all-inclusive day spa. Traveling is going to parts unknown. It's sharing a pipe with a shaman as the sun comes up over a 3,000-year-old ruin, and only then realizing you forgot to pack your toothbrush.
Anthony Bourdain, Parts Unknown, coming in April, only on CNN.
Aaron Burnett, Anderson Cooper, and Piers Morgan take you to the biggest inaugural celebrations in Washington. Live coverage, tonight, 7 Eastern on CNN.
From John Neumeier, creator of SF Ballet's The Little Mermaid, comes Hamburg Ballet in the dance theater epic Nijinsky. Don't miss Nijinsky, February 13th through 19th. Buy tickets at sfballet.org.
The Super Bowl. It's one game for all the glory, and Xfinity from Comcast is giving you a seat at every one ever played. Xfinity brings you 30-minute recaps of every Super Bowl on demand. Plus, over 100 hours of coverage the week of Super Bowl 47 on NFL Network. This is the Super Bowl experience on Xfinity. This is awesome. Get total coverage of the Super Bowl when you upgrade to Digital Preferred TV for NFL Network. Just $9.99 more a month for 12 months. Call 1-800-XFINITY today.
Over 13 million people are affected by famine, war, and drought in the Horn of Africa.
Make a simple text donation of $10.
But do more than donate. Forward the facts.
This is CNN.
Hundreds of thousands of people are now gathered here on the National Mall, getting ready for the inauguration of the President of the United States. The public swearing-in ceremony will be taking place very, very soon, and the excitement is building. Only moments ago, the former President, Bill Clinton, he arrived here up on Capitol Hill. There you see the video of the former president. He's walking in among the so many VIPs who have come to celebrate this moment in American history. Democrats, Republicans, people from all over the country, they are now here. It's taken months to build a special platform where the president, his family, and a who's who of VIPs will stand and sit for the inauguration. John Berman has a closer look at who gets to be on this presidential podium. John, give us the answers.
Hey, Wolf, you know, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, they just took their seats, and we're just minutes away from more big names coming in. And when they get to their chairs, what they'll find, a blanket waiting for them, and also a name card. And the name card's here, a collection of the biggest names in Washington. We took a picture to show you how the whole thing is laid out. Take a look at this. Nothing gets you closer than genetics. Front and center, family. The president's family. Michelle Obama, daughter Sasha Malia, and other close family members. Next to them, the Biden family, children and grandchildren. The other folks in the front row, members of the Supreme Court, including the president's own nominees, Sonia Sotomayor, Elena Kagan. Over here, the Joint Congressional Committee on Inaugural Ceremonies. This is an elite group chaired by Senator Chuck Schumer. Other choice seats behind the Obamas, presidential guests. This is friends of the family, also some big donors. I just saw Rahm Emanuel walk in right now. One person not going to be here, the designated survivor. This is the member of the cabinet who does not show up just in case the unimaginable happens. We do not know who that is at this point. Behind the Bidens, this will be the former power players, past presidents, a very rich tradition in our country. Bill and Hillary Clinton will sit there, Jimmy Carter, but no Bushes this time around. George H.W. Bush staying behind in Texas, of course, trying to recover from that illness that he's been suffering. And George W. Bush and Laura sent their regrets as well, said their thoughts are with the Obamas. They are surrounded by military power, the Joint Chiefs. They just took their seat. And behind the court, you have House leadership, other House members. Then over here, Senate leadership in the full Senate. The members of Congress are all smiles today, but with the battles ahead, those smiles, I suppose, could be changing soon. The nosebleed seats. Nosebleeds go to the governor's way out and back. And over here on the other side, the diplomatic corps. They're in the power bleachers, if you will. But, you know, on a day like today, there really are no bad seats. A short while ago, we saw John Brennan, the nominee for the CIA chief, we saw him walk in and take his seat. And the funny thing is, after he sat down, he took out his camera, walked to the edge of the balcony, and snapped a photo. And one